Hello, my name's Katrina Fenton. I'm Head of Garden Organics Heritage Seed Library, and over the next few minutes I'll be sharing with you a little bit of information about who we are, what we do and why we do it, and I'll also be showing you how to save seed from tomatoes. If you've never saved seed before, it really is one of the easiest vegetables to begin with, and it completes a cycle of growing for food. So if you fancy saving some money, reducing your seed miles, or completing that cycle by keeping seed for you to grow again in future years, then hopefully by the end of this session you'll be confident to save your own seed. So a little bit about ourselves. Well, we've been around for a number of years, since the mid-1970s, and today we look after around 800 open pollinated heritage vegetable varieties. These are all historic, heirloom and ex-commercial varieties that are not commercially or widely available and may have otherwise been lost. On site, we have about 9 polytunnels, some outdoor growing spaces and glasshouse, and each year we grow around 100 to 120 varieties for seed. This is to replenish our seed samples for the varieties in our collection. Different vegetable types have different shelf lives when it comes to seed, so we have a planned and continuous cycle of seed production. We use methods to prevent cross-pollination. We might hand pollinate or introduce pollinators where we need to, and that's in order to maintain these varieties as true to type so that their unique features can be enjoyed for generations to come. We also run assessment trials for potential new additions to the collections, and these might be newly rediscovered heritage varieties or heirlooms that have been passed to us for safekeeping. Each year we grow anywhere between 5 or 15 varieties to assess, measure and record information about them before regenerating the seed. We process all of the harvest on site, saving seed for a whole range of vegetables. This is done mostly by hand in our seed cleaning facilities and our drying room here. We also depend on a fantastic network of about 170 volunteer growers. These are who we call our seed guardians, who take on varieties that we need some help with and return the seed to us here at the Heritage Seed Library. We're fortunate enough to have a whole series of facilities, our cold store for example, which looks after both the seed we produce and the seed we receive from our seed guardians, and to ensure that they're kept in the best conditions. This helps us preserve a healthy seed sample for each of those varieties we look after. That's preserving really important genetic resources that might otherwise have been at risk of disappearing, as well as making seed available to our members. We really believe that the best way to conserve these old heritage varieties is to get people growing and enjoying them again. And one of the key ways that we get seed out into the community and growing as a living collection is through our annual members seed list. Every December we send a list out of around 150 of our 800 varieties that we've got available seed for, and our members can select up to 6 packets. As they're all open pollinated, members can also save their own seed for future use. Heritage tomato varieties are by far the largest vegetable group that we have in our collection. We've got over 180 varieties, and frankly this reflects just how straightforward tomatoes are to successfully save seed from. And although we've got facilities and drying rooms set up for us to do this, really the principle I want to get across is that people have been saving seed for thousands of years. And it really is quite straightforward for you to do that yourself. You just need a few items and you can find them in your kitchen. So you're going to need a jam jar, a serrated knife and a chopping board, teaspoon and a sieve in order to be able to transfer that seed. So assuming that you've collected your ripe tomato varieties, let me show you how you do that next. So here we are. Very simply, take your tomatoes, and the easiest way is to cut across the locules like this. So one of the things to bear in mind with tomatoes is that depending on the kind of tomato variety you have, there may or may not be many seeds inside them. We certainly find that with a large beefsteak type tomato, they can produce very few seeds and very few fruits per plant. But with something like a cherry tomato, a bit like this, you may find that the seed is pretty prolific. Very simple, just take your spoon and your tomato and you're going to gently scrape the seed into the bottom of the jar here. Best thing about this, of course, is you still get to enjoy the fruit, which is why it's very popular among some of our seed guardians for saving seed. Obviously, you might be doing this with several tomatoes, but when you have done that, all you need to do is to cover the seed with a few centimetres of water. And what you want to do is put this aside out of direct sunlight, but at room temperature. So maybe find yourself an indoor shelf in order to do that. Stir every day, and after about 3 to 5 days, the fermentation process will be removing that gelatinous coating that you normally find on your seed. You might find that the water's gone quite cloudy, a little bit murky. There might even be a slightly smelly scum on the top of the seed, of the jar. But if you look to the bottom, the good seed will have sunk to the bottom, leaving the rest of this plant flesh and debris and some unviable seed floating on the top. Now, what I generally do is I will drain out as much of this water as I possibly can, top it up with clean water and mix it up, drain it off several times over, and eventually you'll have seed that's clean enough to put in a sieve and finish off under the tap. Depending on how much seed you've actually produced, you will find that when you wash it under the tap, that gelatinous coating is completely gone, and you'll find that the seed itself is now quite firm and hard. We always transfer it onto a non-sticky surface. If you use paper at this point, that you find when it dries, it will actually dry onto the paper and stick to it quite significantly. So take the seed, place it on a surface, and again you want to dry it in similar conditions to where you place the jar. So somewhere out of direct sunlight, and leave it for up to a week in order for it to dry out. When dry, you might find that it's stuck together a little bit, sometimes has a bit of a consistency of a flapjack, but you'll find it will easily be able to crumble that seed into individual seeds. Now, the best way to store seed is to keep it both dry and cool, dry being much more important than the cool side of things. And generally, if you're going to save the seed for next year, something as simple as a paper envelope that you can save it in will do the job. Alternatively, if you're going to save the seed much longer, you might want to get an airtight jar, possibly something with a sealed lid like this, or even a plastic container. The key is to prevent moisture from re-entering the seed itself. So you do need to keep this seed as dry as possible. This should keep pretty good for several years without any problems, and you should be able to enjoy growing your seed from that. We, of course, provide lots of information and courses on saving seed from the Heritage Seed Library. So if you wanted to find out more, not just about tomato varieties, but also all kinds of vegetable varieties that you can save seed from, and then please take a look at our website. Our seed saving guidelines are available for free. Simply follow the Growing Advice tab at the top of the screen, and it will take you to our seed saving guidelines where you can look up information about any vegetable type that you want to save seed from. So thank you very much. Happy growing, and I hope you manage to save seed for next year.